All righty. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is another edition of our weekly real estate backstory. We do this every Monday morning at 9 a.m. My name is Alan Richardson. I'm the managing broker here at Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
My name is Ming Richardson, the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
We try and cover all the cool things happening in real estate, trying to keep you guys up to speed about what we see going on and a lot of things happening in our industry and in the marketplace and how that's going to impact real estate. And so something I kind of wanted to start off with, and it's a little bit, I'm not sure it's that timely, but how unrealistic real estate shows are. And just because it says real estate in the title or it's a real estate reality show kind of thing.
Let's
Hey guys, there is so little reality with what really going on out there. A lot of these shows are really designed to show drama and that kind of stuff. Some of the people that you see on some of these shows, like I wouldn't want to do business with, kind of thing, and it's about the drama. And you know there was a new lawsuit this week where homeowners are suing another one of the shows out there because work is done and you know things are just taped to walls and you know tile is put up with you know just adhesives and things like that to try and get the shot in and you know so much of that is just for TV. It's not for reality. You know, we love to flip houses, but you know, when we flip houses, we don't ever see the kind of crazy numbers that, and I don't know investors that do.
A lot of times, what they do is that they give you the cost and they don't include any labor, because a lot of labor are basically sponsored by whatever company it is. That is getting benefit of the viewing and advertising through that segment.
Well, and so for us, we just have to understand that these shows are out there for entertainment purposes, not for educational purposes. Because I get asked all the time, like, oh, what about this and what about that, and you know, I just want to go look at $1 million houses. Okay, that's not a reality. If I have a multi-million-dollar house, I'm not just going to be like, yeah, you guys can come show it whenever you feel like. That's not how this thing works.
Appointment has to be set. You know, seller have maybe a very distinct and showing instructions, so you just don't
proof of funds, things like that.
That
never happen to show up on TV, kind of thing. So just because you know, and for us, we just have to keep our expectations realistic. As opposed to what you see on TV. Just because it's on TV don't mean it ain't real, or don't mean it is real. It isn't, kind of thing.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. All right. So I'll get off my soapbox for that. So there was a new study out this past week which says the process of buying a home is so traumatic. This came out from Zillow actually, that right now half of our buyers are ending up in tears.
Yep.
It is, and so at first there's a little bit of me that can kind of go either way because you know being in the industry we can be like, really, tears, come on. I mean, like, but you know, like you gotta understand that what a huge emotional impact
it is
that buying a home really is.
For buyer's agent, you guys know how difficult it is right now to get a offer stick. And when you have buyers that have set their heart and soul on a property that they absolutely adore and love and can see themselves raising their kids in that area, in that home, and then just be told, sorry, you didn't get it. It is really, really difficult.
It's very, very emotional. And sometimes in the industry, we can get I'm not going to say we're callous because I think that as a group, we're very, very caring folks. I mean, we have relationships with the folks that we work with, and it's crucially important to us. But sometimes it's really easy to just get, you know, like especially we're in the spring and summer buying season right now. Things are and the market's still kind of on fire. So it's really good to kind of remind ourselves that, listen, you know, this is still a very important, very emotional financial decision. It really matters to a lot of our folks, and even though it's really competitive, we've got to make sure that we're out there.
It's not just only that, you know, for buyers that was actually looking back at December, and now they can get a huge sticker shock because the interest rate. So that, you know, combined with limited inventory is giving some buyer a lot of things to cry, literally to cry about.
Well, and at the same time, there was also another study that came out this past week, and where they polled homeowners and said, how important is home ownership to you? And it's interesting because 75% of Americans said that being a homeowner is more important than the advancement in your career. So and so you gotta understand that's not, for years when you meet someone, that kind of stuff. Hey, what do you do? What do you do? It's turning into, where do you live? Where do you live? Kind of thing. So home ownership is a very, very big deal. And right now there's all sorts of talk about what's going on with the market, and that, and we're going to share some of these numbers with you today, but still understand that no matter what, home ownership is really important. And we're blessed to be able to work with folks and help that bring about, kind of thing. So I want to go ahead and start sharing some information. I got some very interesting information here I'd like to kind of run by us here, and that is some financial literacy information, kind of thing.
And this is not that the clients are not it's just that they're not informed.
Well, and this is well, I guess what we're saying is this comes down to us as well as our lenders right now. And so they had one of the large mortgage companies went out and they quizzed a massive group of Americans, kind of thing, on their home buying financial literacy, and 56% of Americans failed. Okay, over half failed the home buyer terms quiz, just being able to identify what the home buying terms are. And it kind of went across the board, of course. Now, of course, Gen Z knew less, but they're newer, kind of thing. But even our baby boomers, a third of them failed. Gen X, over half failed Gen X. Of course, millennials and Gen Z more are going to fail on that, but it's really disturbing a little bit, because that's on us to make sure that our clients understand what's really going on when we talk about home buyer regrets and understanding what you're purchasing, things like that. The financial side of things is really important. And while we don't want to get into credit reports and what their individual credit is, we still need to make sure that they understand some of these basic terms. Now, when we talk about finance, the basic terms that they graded everyone on, the thing that more people got wrong than anything was what is closing costs. And sometimes that is one of those magical boxes that we just dump everything into. It's closing costs, it's closing costs, it's closing costs. And a lot of times our buyers, even our sellers, are like, okay, it's closing costs, but what does that really mean?
Right. They don't understand the breakdown, nor do they understand what it takes to have that.
Yeah. Almost 60% don't know what APR stands for. That's your annual percentage rate. That's a really big deal, guys. Okay, that's what it costs them to borrow money.
Well, sometimes APR is different from your interest rate, because APR is compound on a daily basis, and therefore they're actually higher than what your actual interest rate that you will quote it on.
Yeah. 57% of folks don't know what a mortgage is. Now, I think I don't even understand how they understand that well, but I think it's the actual definition of a mortgage.
I think they mean principal plus the interest and the escrow.
Right. And so that's true. 53% don't understand appreciation. 52% don't understand what encompasses down payment. What do they need to bring for down payment? How much they need to bring for down payment? 52% don't understand what really encompasses an offer. And we actually see that one a lot, because a lot of folks think an offer is only price. And there's so many considerations that go into making up an offer.
And usually I have clients that say, so what's my next step? And I just like, okay, you and I had a really good conversation. I just assume that you know some of these things, but they really don't.
We can't assume. That's the thing.
Please educate them.
Yeah. Now, out of those regrets, these are those same financial. This is part of that same poll. And so, what were the homeowners' biggest regrets? And so, the number one regret on loans was that they used an ARM, the adjustable rate mortgage, and we're I'm not gonna say we're worried, but we are cautiously trying to steer clients away from ARMs. ARMs is one of those things. The adjustable rate mortgages got us into that 2008, 2007 issues there.
Well, if you think about ARM is almost like instant gratification. We're worried about now, not worried about later, and that's what ARM does for folks, but for a short-term hold, it's not a bad idea. But if you're going to be there much longer than just a year or two, ARM is really not the way to go.
Yeah. And the second highest is FHA or FHA loans. FHA loans are the second most regretted loan out there, which I find
Interesting because
my only and personally like my only the only thing I don't love about FHA loans is that you can't get rid of mortgage insurance. It used to be, and on
after you
conventional
pay,
loans, that kind of
yeah,
stuff. Once you
after
get
you price the 20% in the past, the insurance is no longer available, applicable.
uh,
Because even if it went a foreclosure, the FHA typically can reclaim at least their payoff.
yeah,
And the reason why they stopped that, because during downturn market, I don't know if y'all remember this, but we had a ton of HUD homes,
yeah.
and they're just trying to recoup all the insurance, the guaranteed money that they have allowed out there. And
Well,
now
I'm
it's
with
no
you. Mortgage
longer.
insurance only goes to protect the end lender, but and I understand why it's there. That's probably the only negative I have for FHA mortgages is I really don't like that piece of it. I mean, the least regretted are the fixed rate mortgages and conventional mortgages. One interesting thing was on home loan length, the most regretted home loan was a 15-year, mainly because homeowners became house poor. They're paying their mortgage off much, much faster, but they're going to end up not actually being able to actually have a life kind of thing. So the 15-year mortgage is
Well,
actually
and
the
also
most regretted mortgage.
it restrict them, honestly. If you have any medical that came up or anything like that, guess what? You're already tight on your budget.
So the least regretted was a 30-year conventional fixed rate mortgage.
There we
Just
go.
so, and so
It's kind of interesting how
Yeah,
this data works.
it is. Now, one thing that we want to talk a little bit, no, we're already here talking about mortgages. So mortgages stayed flat this week and went from 5.1 last week to 5.09 this week. So it's nice to start seeing some stability in them. So we're going about 4 weeks of mortgages slowly starting to drop. We're not going to keep seeing that. Every time the Fed announces things, not that the Fed rate doesn't affect
It does.
well, it does long term, but short term, when the Fed announces rate hikes, that's for the federal funds rate. That affects the stock market, and when people move more money into and out of the
Stock market,
the 10-year
treasury
treasuries and that kind of stuff, that's going to affect us. So we're going to keep seeing a lot of things. Overall, we're starting to see signs that the market is slowing. Purchase applications fell another 1% last week versus the week before, and it's 14% down from last year. Overall, the mortgage demand is its lowest since 2018. Not that 2018 was a bad year. That's what we got to understand.
Well, partially, you got to look at it. It's due to inventory. Not only that, if you look at interest rate a year ago, it's 2 point lower.
Yeah.
And that's equivalent to about almost $100,000 worth of purchase power.
Yep. So we're seeing that demand for mortgages is at its lowest since 2018, like we said. But mortgage originations, these are really safe mortgages, and that's one thing that's very different from when we start talking about market shifts, everyone immediately kicks back to 2008, that kind of stuff. Right now, 70% of mortgages are going to consumers with a 760 credit score.
That's great.
In contrast, before 2008, only 25% of mortgages.
So 50% jump.
Yeah. So, we went from 3/4 to, 3/4 of the folks right now are almost 70% are above 760, whereas it used to be only 25% were above 760. So a huge shift. So the market is way more stable. We're not looking at that sort of a shift, and please don't be alarmed. We are going to see prices flattening, but we're not going to see this whole thing blow up. So don't think that. So Showingtime releases their numbers every quarter. So we like to pull those up. And so right now you're going to see where folks are talking about, the activity levels down, and we've been seeing, we've seen activity level dropping from last year a little bit, but last year was a raging dumpster fire on the level of activity.
Well, as far as also it went. The buyer's agent last year was such a competitive bid. Everybody went to see, multiple homes. I remember making at least 10 appointments a day. just to get through what's available out there.
So you can see that so like this is these, in 2020, and now the number doesn't represent anything. That's just the 223.6 number. That's just what they use as a number. But you can see that in April of 2020, we all know what was going on in April of 2020. That was really low, but then last year it jumped up to 252. This year it's 223. It's still really high. Now, what does that look? And so please, yes, are we less than we were last year? We are. There's no doubt about that. Are we drastically less? We're at 11.6. But what does that look like historically here? I mean, let's just keep this thing kind of in perspective. And so this is the historical Showingtime showing index by month. And what you can see
is Southern region versus United States.
Yeah, I mean, overall. Yeah, this is us in the South versus the United States. So you can see that are we dropping? Yeah, it's been going down. No one's disputing that. However, look at where, I mean, if you were in real estate in 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, like look where we're at. Okay. We're still higher than we've been in the last 10 years, basically. So yes, it is down from where it was.
But if you look at it, you look at the trend, that's partially because like we predicted, the Gen Z and the millennial are now buying, and this is their time.
Yeah. So, I guess what I'm saying is you're going to see a lot of information coming up about how the market's slowing. And do we agree that there is a tapering off? Absolutely. But does that mean that it's this raging, run for the hills, that kind of stuff? No, not at all. Matter of fact, let's actually look at what's going on with these numbers right now. And so, this comes from realtor.com kind of thing. And so you can see that these are the number of active listings that we have is increasing. Now, this is good news for our buyers. Okay. And so we've been saying that this is going to come on. We've actually been waiting for this to come on. So yes, are we now seeing, you can see that, the green bar represents last year. So we're up over last year. But then you go back and you're like, well, how was it in 2020? Or how about 2019 or 2018 or 2017? We are drastically less. We're around 500 and something, 516,000 as compared to 1,250,000 just like 3 or 4 years ago. So yes, it's improving. Okay. Yes, we're getting more listings on the market, but are we anywhere near a quote unquote normal or stabilized market? Absolutely not. So don't get wrapped up in that is what I'm saying. This is our pending listing count. And so you can see pending listings, while up over to a certain extent, it is still down. Yeah, exactly. Now, how about newly listed homes? We are seeing that trend go up. But one thing you have to understand is this is the same trend we see every freaking year, right? Okay.
Because if you look at it, it's actually an improvement from last year. If you look at it, so I think last year's a green line, correct?
Correct. Last year.
So if you look at last year's listing this time, we're actually above last year.
We are, but I guess what I'm saying is that the one thing to point out here is that these are like historical trends. We always spike up in the number of listings right now because a lot of people list at this moment trying to get ready for the summer buying season so they can move by the fall. So this same thing that we're seeing go up right now, I expect that we're going to start inching up even more so, but this is a normal trend. Okay. This don't just think that just because we are having more listings coming on the market, that means that some kind of doomsday scenario. It doesn't. So here's our days on market, right? What about days on market? Days on market are the lowest it's ever been. Right? Ever. So again, are we seeing more inventory? Yes. We've been hopeful and wanting to see more inventory. It's going to help prices to start to stabilize even more. So it's going to that coupled with the rising interest rates are going to it's putting some water on our real estate market right now, but it's not knocking it out. So don't think that. Now, one thing we are seeing is the number of price reductions that sellers are doing is drastic. We're having where a lot of sellers are having to make price reductions simply because they thought they were going to throw it out there at prices that were not realistic.
And the
see.
appraiser coming back right now with lower appraisal than what's the list price.
Well, but by and large, what we're seeing is used to. Well, we're just seeing a market that's in shift right now, and so we're seeing where a lot of our sellers are having some knee-jerk reactions because they went out and tried to overprice their property. Now we're still seeing that good properties priced properly are flying off the shelves.
Absolutely.
We're not seeing where that's holding things back at all. Well, but we are seeing where the folks who are like, well, just let's try it at this price, they're getting burnt. And so right now the idea of somebody's just going to be able to throw any price that they want out there is not realistic.
No.
It's not going to get the number of showings. It's not going to get the activity levels that the sellers are wanting. They're not going to go for over asking. And so now we're seeing, because they went out, tried to be too aggressive on their price, it's burn them.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing that happen more and more right now. You can see the share of now, it's not as high as it has been in the past, but we are definitely moving into that area right now. Now, how about here just in the Atlanta area? So our median list price is right at $428,000. That's still up 10% over last year, 9.8 kind of thing. Active listings are up 11% in the Atlanta area. Again, we knew that was going to be there. We're actually glad to see it.
A lot of time too,
Yeah.
Because honestly, the demand's still here. But if you price the property way too high, it's not going to move for a little while. Our
average days on market here in Atlanta, 29 days on market. That's down 14%. So again, a lot of activity going on in our marketplace. A lot of buyers and sellers moving on or engaging in transactions, exactly what we want. But just don't think that there's this. Yeah, we are seeing a real gradual shift, but some of this is just normal market trends kind of thing. Now, one thing we are seeing is that contract signings have hit its slowest pace in 10 years kind of thing. And so the number of pending contracts is down about 5% month over month. And so we know that we're going to see less transactions moving forward. We know we're expecting around a 10% drop in the number of transactions, but we also have much higher price points, that kind of stuff. It's going to end up being a net wash at the end of the things. What you have to be really careful for here is that I just pulled some of the headlines out that you can see kind of thing. Home listings suddenly jump as sellers worry that they're going to miss out on red hot housing market. Sellers are reducing asking prices. Sellers are starting to freak out. I'm not seeing sellers freak out. I'm seeing where we are still seeing some sellers who are trying to jump in the market because they do feel like now is a good time and they want to get in the market. But realistically, a lot of sellers are coming in the market because a lot of sellers come into the market every time this time of year. Yeah. Right. There's just a lot of that going on. Sellers are reducing asking prices. We completely agree with that because some of them came out and they weren't very realistic about their prices on there kind of thing. So we aren't seeing freak out, and you shouldn't be freaking out, but you should be able to advise your clients wisely on what's truly going on.
And sometimes if you're in an area where is a lot of Airbnb or a hot area, the thing you got to watch out for, just because your neighbor's so at this point doesn't mean yours will be, simply because on the condition of renovation, as well as overall curb appeal, especially in an area that's what I consider hot market. If your house is still a builder grade, no improvement, whereas your neighbor has the upgrades, recently put HVAC or roof or siding, those things make a difference.
So we kind of want to go back to being real here. And so these are some
versus
tips.
Fake real.
Yeah.
And like HTTV.
Yeah. We don't want to be like, even though we're on video right now, we're not like that. But we want to talk about, these are some tips that we want to, offer out about how to navigate a changing market. So for our sellers, the first thing is price your home right from the beginning. So, we find that pricing the home right, just a tick below is exactly where you really need to be in this market, because that's where you're going to get a lot of activity that goes on. Going out and being the overpriced home right now is going to burn your sellers. going
Not
out
only
5,
that,
10, $20,000 over over the neighborhood
market.
average and over the market just means your house is going to sit there. And so that's not a smart play out there. I think our sellers are having to be very strategic about price drops. And from here on out, do we need to be, as a listing agent, we haven't had to discuss about price reductions moving forward. That needs to be part of our listing presentation right now.
Right.
Is when will we take price drops? At what point are we going to do this? We need to be, I mean, you've got 2 weeks to get a full price offer. If you don't get a full, you're not going to get a full price offer unless it's in the first 2 weeks. And so if you're overpriced, there's no hope of getting a full price offer. Now, you've also got 60 days of marketing time, because after 60 days, people are like, there's something wrong with that house. And so it really, really hurts you. So price drops have to be done and done aggressively and ready to go. Looks are mattering more than they did a year ago. Now, first of all, we've seen where, last year homes were looking amazing. Everyone was sitting home and yards were great and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we've seen this massive shift over to where folks are like, well, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to put my house out there. It's going to burn you. Okay. Price versus condition is always going to be a concern. And so this idea of I don't have to paint. I don't want to clean. I don't want to change out the carpets. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, you can do that, but it will cost you. It's going to hurt them.
Consequences for that. So
also sellers need to be ready. Their best offer is probably not going to be cash. All right. The days of overprice I mean, don't get me wrong. You are going to have cash offers. I don't mean that. We have way too much investor activity going on not to have cash offers. But does that mean that the best offer is always going to be cash? We're seeing a higher percentage of our transactions now are going through FHA. VA is back in vogue, that kind of thing.
Cash offers, understand that they're investor with capital I, okay? They're there for investment purpose only. So if your home has some deferred maintenance, guess what? During those due diligence period, they're gonna knock you down on price, and they are gonna give you an inflated repair cost just to justify their reduction. So that's happening right now. And right now, as a homeowner, it is hard to find labor to do, so if you don't mind the equity sweat as far as painting and things like that, those things can go for a long, long way.
Yep. The next one is be open negotiations. In the past, the sellers have been able to pretty much be like, I ain't gonna do it, not gonna worry about it. And now the sellers are going to have to be coming back down to reality and be open to negotiations. The sellers no longer hold all the cards. So they're going to have to start negotiating, and the smart ones will, and the ones that aren't smart are going to face some financial headwinds on that.
Absolutely.
For our buyers, yes, we are seeing an uptick in inventory, but it is drastically less than where it has been in the past years. So time is still your enemy for our buyers. And our buyers need to be ready to rock and roll.
Right. And please make your best offer. Okay. And sometimes I understand your best offer may not be it, but understand that make your best offer, because if you're still trying to negotiate, come in low, the listing agent's going to look at you like they're not serious. And I got these other offers that are much better than yours.
Yep. The good houses are still going to go fast.
Absolutely.
Just that we see a shift. This is going to be a gradual shift over the next year or two kind of thing. This is not going to be this massive flip the switch and all of a sudden we've got inventory coming out our yin yang and all this kind of stuff going on. That's not what's happening. So for our for our buyers, when we're working with them, understand they've still got to be quick about making their decisions. They can't dawdle around. They need to go out with still an aggressive offer. And the good houses, those properly priced properties, those things are rocking and rolling off the market in here. Now we can start looking for price drops. And one thing that we're seeing is a lot of buyers agents now. Buyers agents have been looking at price reductions for a long time because we didn't have a lot of them. We're seeing a higher percentage of price reduction. So once a seller has started making price reductions, there might be even more room in there.
Right.
And so, just like we were saying that the sellers have to be open to negotiations, the buyers are going to have more negotiation power in there. Well, let's not go crazy, y'all. right? And so this isn't 2008. You're not going to come in 20, 30,000 under asking. You're not going to be able to ask for all these concessions. And I mean, it's still a seller's market. Now, that being said, do the buyers have more power? Yes, we're moving into a more balanced market. Probably over the next 6 months, we're going to see more and more of a balancing out of our market. We're going to see prices starting
It
to
would
level off.
surprise me to see some more seller contribution. I'm actually saw 1 or 2 contract that had that, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But typically those home may have deferred maintenances, so the seller knows that they're not going to get the full thing, and the buyer would need the money to fix those repairs. So rather than just do a price reduction, 9 out of 10 they will do a seller contribution, so the buyer have bring less money to closing.
Yep. So right now, we just need to keep our heads about ourselves. We need to be wise in our counsel to both our buyers and our sellers about what's happening in our market. The market is not dropping. We are not in this big free for all thing like that.
I mean, not yet.
Not at all.
At some point, it will flat out, just like any. It depends on what the economy does and what what we're looking at as environment. Because prior to COVID, nobody expected the house to jump like it did. Okay, so it just depends on how the market has shifted.
But still, no matter what, we still have a massive deficit of homes. We have an up and coming millennial generation.
And Gen
our home ownership rate in the United States is not. I mean, like, you'd figure that everyone thought that we're at, like our highest home ownership rate is right at about 70%. We're at about 65% of Americans actually own their home. So there's still a lot of room in there for that side of things. Mortgage rates, while everyone wants to freak out about a 5% mortgage rate, 3 years ago, we'd have been tickled pink with a 5% mortgage rate. All right. So historically, we are still really, really,
we just been very during COVID.
That kind of
truly
thing.
Have.
So Atlanta has the highest, or the 13th highest new construction starts in the United States. So you can see these are all the places in, around the US that have the greatest. And so Atlanta is one of the top 15 anyway out there. One thing that we are seeing on the builder side that we really like to see is that lumber prices are in half where they are. So you can see, that the red bar kind of shows where we've been on lumber prices in there for the last year, and now, boy, it is nice seeing lumber start to drop. Okay, and so
thank goodness.
We've needed that for quite a while. Changing gears here again. So is it cheaper to rent or to own? And so this is in the Atlanta, Georgia area for residential properties. If you're going to rent, your median rent is $2,130. versus your median mortgage payment is $1,905. So the whole thing of, is it cheaper to buy or to rent? Well, it's going to save you about $200 a month if you buy versus if you rent.
Honestly, if you look at that 2130, that's your basic 3-2 home starter home. With a 1905, you're actually looking at maybe a 4-bedroom home based on the mortgage rate. So that's the difference. So,
but we find that really useful to have out there. Atlanta is still better to buy than rent.
Absolutely.
So, as far as training goes this week, so Tuesday, tomorrow, we have DISC, Building Relationships in Real Estate. That's going to be here in our McDonough office at 9:30. On Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching license law for agents and brokers, and that's going to be in person at our Fayetteville office. At the same time, my lovely bride is going to be teaching
Show Me the Money and Take Me to Closing.
Yeah, she's going to be at Metro South Association of Realtors over there. And then on Thursday, I'll be teaching again. I'll be teaching fast top dollar home sales with staging. That'll be in person at our airport office. If you are wanting to be a great listing agent, staging needs to be an important piece that you have on there. So,
and the advice you give your client matters.
Absolutely. So we hope you guys have a great week. If we can be of any kind of service, call, text, smoke signals. We answer it all.
Thank you, and have a fabulous Monday.